Androcentrism is the evaluation of individuals based on male perspectives, standards, and values. It is complex and often unacknowledged. A conclusion to further the accountability of this term includes looking at patriarchal cultures in which men are granted more power and influence. This power and influence often grants them the liberty to evaluate and interpret individuals and cultures at their own will. Androcentrism exists in many fields such as art, law, media, and science. Instead of looking at all these, I am mostly going to focus on androcentrism through the lenses of science and medicine. Within the United States, there are governments of people, typically governments of men, that determine what to study using the government dollar. Therefore, many critics revealed that scientific research undertaken in the United States reflects the societal bias towards minorities that generally benefit predominantly white middle to upper class males. This priority in scientific studying and government spending often create an unintentional bias against minority groups who inevitably don't gain access to the same type of exclusive healthcare. However, I am going to focus my presentation on androcentrism towards women and how women as a minority are affected by male-dominated sciences. I want to introduce a quick example of what androcentrism looks like, and I want to do so in a study performed to demonstrate the preferred use of male lab rats versus female lab rats. Traditionally, male lab rats are used for studies because it is thought that the reproductive hormonal cycles of female rats create more subjective lab results. This exclusion has led to certain ethical issues, and the consequence continues to be misunderstood and underrepresented facts about the female body. These biases are described in our book as scientific distortion because male sciences are selecting one method over the next, and because of this selection, we are provided with more masculine-based results that neglect scientific research in women. Another, more specific example comes from the Wiley online library titled Clinical Trials and Experimental Science Bias Against Women by Sue V. Rosser. She states very clearly that the women are excluded from clinical trials due to their fear of litigation resulting from the possible damage of a woman's reproductive system. She also mentions that there is an excessive focus on male research for cardiovascular disease and an under-treatment for women with the same diseases. The study demonstrated that men are more likely to undergo certain procedures such as coronary angioplasty or angiography. These procedures are prominent in men because there is a belief that women do not need to benefit from the same practice. To quote Sue V. Rosser, this demonstration was refuted when a similar study revealed that women had angina before myocardial infarction as frequently as and with more debilitating effects than men. Yet women were referred for cardiac catheterization only half as often. I believe this is a direct result of desire in funding the study of women's bodies throughout history. As far as behavioral sciences go, there was a study performed by Lawrence Kohlberg published by the Stanford Encyclopedia of Philosophy where he performs a model of moral development which he based exclusively on samples of boys. He assumed that females would conform based off his universal trajectory, which was produced by results of an all-male sample. This approach is unpacked by Carol Gilligan, and she's noted as saying that androcentric presumptions of male experience should not be treated as normative human patterns. Repercussions from biased samples include implying results inappropriately to populations such as female populations. During the second wave of feminism came the women's health movement, where the primary goal was to improve health care for women. The major motive within this movement was women asking for the rights to their own bodies when it comes to deciding abortion, sexual health, and reproductive rights. I believe this dissatisfaction flows directly from what we know in regard to the white female patriarchal power in politics and science, and their neglect to study women's bodies the same way they have studied male bodies. Without this institutional neglect, we wouldn't have to constantly make the argument that our bodies are equally as important. The women's health movement has been in constant progress since the 70s, and it's epistemically significant that feminists continue to raise evidence that expose error from androcentric findings. This was summarized perfectly in our text by Sandra Harding, who describes feminist empiricism, attempting to bring feminist criticism into the realm of scientific knowledge by arguing that sexist and androcentric research are the results of bad science.